Welcome to Unity of Wilmington's spiritual experience, a time of community online, a time to connect heart to heart. For surely this connection begins in the heart of God, and from God's heart to your heart, and God's heart to another's heart, until we are heart to heart in community, remembering the great truth that there's only one presence and one power active in the universe, a presence and power we call God. Let's take that idea into a moment of prayer. For when we remember that God is all there is, we can reconnect to our heart, to our heart's desires, to our creativity, to our imagination, and begin to remember the purpose that we came into this world to be. We are destined to love. We are destined to live in the fullness of life. We are destined to remember our wholeness. We are destined to care for one another in amazing ways. And so it is. Amen.
You will do amazing things with the choice each new day brings, and with every step you take. That's the promise that you make. The reason you live is there in every gift you give. Love your life, love your dreams. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Oh, the places you will go and the people you will know. Don't worry when or where or how. You don't need to know that now. You're on the right track. No need to look ahead or back. Love your life, love your dreams. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things.
wonderful. Open your arms wide and just say, I will do amazing things. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Letting the energy of those words simply reverberate through you. I will do amazing things. It's a perfect song for this talk that we're doing today, for this time together, for what we're exploring and engaging our minds in, because we're looking at creativity. How many times have you heard yourself say, oh, I'm not very creative. Oh, she's more creative than I. He's more creative than I. Oh, I wish I were more creative. Have you ever had those thoughts, and have you ever articulated those thoughts? It's a thing that we do as adults. We've learned to do that. We've learned through various means, or we've heard and taken on, which is a part of learning, through various means that we're not creative. Oh, they're creative. I'm not creative. But do you know children? Children, when they are young, are incredibly creative. A longitudinal study, and what that means is that it was done across many, many years. This one happened to be about 30 years. A longitudinal study by NASA looked at creativity of adults, and then they decided to follow a particular group of children, 1,600 children. As a matter of fact, they followed this group of children and they gave them exactly the same measurement tools for creativity. Each time they measured it, I want to show you the results for it. It's really quite fascinating to me. When kids are 4 or 5 years old, based on this NASA protocol, they were considered to be creative geniuses. 98% of 4 and 5-year-olds were considered to be creative geniuses. So 5 years later, they give exactly the same protocol to exactly the same children when they're 9 and 10 years old, and what they found was 30% scored as creative geniuses. It dropped from 98% at the 4 or 5 level to, by 9 or 10, to the 38% level. 5 years later, it dropped to the 12% level. And then when they measured those same children as adults, it had dropped to 2%. What happens? What happens to our creativity? Children, they're fascinating because they think outside the box. They're not afraid of making mistakes. They're not afraid of somebody going, what is that? They're not afraid of those things. So they're willing to take greater risk than we are as adults. Not all adults, but most adults. Much more willing to take greater risk. Much more willing to live in uncertainty, to try something different. Let me see what happens when I color this that's usually brown, bright blue, or purple. You remember the dinosaur Barney? Barney made a lot of money, annoyed a lot of adults, but made a lot of money. And somebody had just taken an idea, added a few new things, and then put it out there. And it was loved by many. Some of the things that stop us as adults is that when we're in that creative process, we're very worried about what other people are thinking or going to think of our product. If I'm trying to write a book and I'm thinking, oh, so-and-so's going to read it, I wonder if they're going to like it, or will it become a bestseller? If I'm in that process, I'm out of the zone. I'm out of the zone of my own creativity, and I'm into the zone of judgment. And so often as adults, we live in the zone of judgment rather than allowing that zone of creativity to flow through us for the sheer enjoyment of being creative. Now, I don't like to cook, but I love to eat food by people who love to cook because they know the nuances and they know how to shape this or add a little this or, oh, let me reduce this in the recipe and let me make it my own so it tastes really good. My grandmother, she used to make this wonderful, what she called sage dressing, both at Christmas and at Thanksgiving. That's the only time she would make it. And it tasted delicious. It was very special to me. And I tried. She gave me her recipe, but I could not get it to taste like she did. Well, I don't much like cooking, and she loved cooking. And so she knew how to finesse the ingredients. She used part of her creativity in cooking. But as adults, we get caught up in things. We get lost in things, particularly in that zone of judgment or that zone of anxiety that we feel about what we're creating. And children just create, and then they just drop it off quite often. You know, it's done. I forgot about that. When my grandmother died, my mom brought me a box. It was like a manila folder box, and it was stuffed full. And I started to open it up, and it was all the letters I had written to my grandmother. It was drawings of horses. I must have really loved horses when I was young. And I could see the progression of my skills in drawing across time as I read the letters. But she saved those pictures. She saved those letters to her. They were part of creativity. And as an adult, I was blessed by her recognizing a level of creativity that I did not recognize in myself. So children don't worry about it up until they've been taught. Oh, you know, you have to draw it like this. Horses aren't pink, you know, they're this color, or cats have to look like this, or, you know, dogs have 4 legs, not 10. You know, those kinds of things. We as adults begin to impose our ideas of how things are sometimes because we've lost our ability in creativity to bring in the power of our imagination, to open wider than what is and how we see things and how we perceive things, and then to allow something to begin to unfold that might not have ever been because of we're willing to take the risk and do something different. We have lots of things like Post-it notes because somebody was going for one thing and created something else and recognized. They allowed their perception to be bigger than their beginning point. And they recognized, oh, I have something here. It's really cool when we're able to open up like that. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Hook. It came out in 1991, I believe. When it begins, Peter Pan, who's now known as Peter Banning, has grown up. He's a lawyer. He's got a lot of responsibility. He has 3 children. He's feeling stressed and overwhelmed by his life, and somebody kidnaps his children. And he knows that they're in Neverland. They're in Neverland. And so Peter Banning finds his way back. And as he comes to that place, that magical, mystical place, he brings his very adult self. And he runs into the Lost Boys. There's a new leader of the Lost Boys now, and he sits down across from the new leader, and all the Lost Boys they're playing, and they're putting food on the table, and he looks at the leader, and he's trying to have this conversation, and he's hungry, he's tired, he's frustrated, he's scared, and he looks around, and the kids are eating, the Lost Boys are eating. They're eating air burgers. They're having air corn on the cob. He cannot see any of the food. And the new leader, Fino, shoves a plate at him and says, "Eat." And he looks at the plate, and he's like, there is no food here. And he's frustrated. And he's looking around, and he's watching these children eat with expressions and sounds like they're really enjoying their food. And he's frustrated. He's frustrated enough that insults begin to pass between, like kid kind of insults begin to pass between the new leader and the old leader. And Peter Banning is frustrated enough that he picks up a spoon and he dips it into the bowl that looks like it might have porridge in it, and he pulls it back, you know what I'm talking about, and he's aiming it, and splat, he sends it right over to the new leader, and to his surprise, all of a sudden he sees the porridge. It's multicolored and it's right there. He's like, wow. And of course, what do you think happened? The new leader picks up a spoon, pulls his spoon back, and splat right on Peter, who's now finding his imagination. He's getting back into that groove. And of course, there's a food fight. It's a bunch of boys. What do you expect? There's a food fight. They're having a blast out in the forest. Peter Banning is remembering who he was. He's remembering that he's Peter Pan, that that's who he was. He's remembering what is true of himself. He's coming back into his imagination. Take a moment and think, where did I let go of my imagination? Because where I let go of it is where I began to let go of my creativity. Pam Grout, in her book, Living Big, has a whole chapter on creativity. And one of the things she says is this: when we don't express ourselves, when we bottle up our angers, our fears, our delights, we cut ourselves off from life's juice, from its joy. When we get our creativity set up with an idea of an product, an end product that's not just a product, but it has to make $1 million. It has to be a bestseller. It has to be this or that. When we get our creativity caught up in that, we put a lid on our imagination. We can no longer see the multicolored gruel that's in the bowl. We can no longer enjoy the air burgers. We can't play air guitar anymore because we have forgotten. We have tamped down that imagination and the creativity that go together. And when we do that, we limit ourselves. So often, our perception of creativity is the limiting factor. When we can just create again for the very joy of creating, to take a piece of Play-Doh while you're playing with your children, your grandchildren, and maybe you just have it for your own creativity, and just play with it for a while. Shape a little village, shape a dog, shape a cat, do an alligator, whatever works for you, so that you have a moment of letting that flow through you. It's such joy when we can focus our mind in that way. It's an amazing combination of convergent focus, focusing our attention, and divergent focus, allowing something new to come into our attention. It expands our creativity, expands our delight in life. It expands our joy when we allow for that flow to come through us, for the sheer joy of creating. This is what the Bible says about creating. Oops, went too far. First, this. This comes from the Message version of the Bible. First, this. God created the heavens and the earth. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. God's Spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. Take a moment and see if you can imagine that bird brooding slowly across the waters, that bottomless abyss, the things seen and the things unseen. Some of creativity is taking that unseen and bringing it into the seen. Taking that which we cannot see except in our mind and bringing it forth into a physical object. This is what creation is. Later in Genesis, the same chapter, verse 27, it says, we as human beings are created in the image of and as the likeness of God. So that same creativity that is the bird brooding across that black abyss, that nothingness that produces light, that produces animals, that produces oceans and mountains, that produces the earth, and eventually created us. That same creation is within us. It's within us as fully as that creation of the bird. The spirit is often seen as a bird brooding across those waters, inviting our imagination to come forth, inviting ourselves to look at something new and different and see what we can bring forth. When we are creating, when we are being the creator that we are, because we were created, we have that same creation ability. We're in alignment. And that's when we're in what some people call the zone or the flow. I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow of life. I'm in that movement of energy that moves in all kinds of ways and brings forth a creation. It might mean a moment of joy. It might mean a feeling of love. It might mean an inspiration to do something we've never done before. Creation, movement of flow. Psychologists tell us that as adults, we spend about 5% of our time, which is probably about 5 minutes for some of us, but we spend about 5% of our time in the flow or in the zone. That means that the other 95% is in the known. Creativity takes an ability to live in uncertainty. Creativity is about bringing forth something that's not been brought before, or doing something you've done before in a very new way. So there's a zillion ways to be creative. We have to open our perspective and our perception up to see it differently. So it doesn't simply become, oh, I wrote a book, I sang a song, I painted a picture. All of those are beautiful things. I struggled with my creativity for years. I tried art classes where I would draw. I tried a painting class. I tried watercolors. I tried acrylics. I just couldn't quite get it. Now, I don't like to get dirty, but somebody said to me, why don't you go try a pottery class? And I tried a pottery class. And the beautiful thing was the creativity was the process of learning how to do it. And the rest was just icing on the cake. But my engagement in the process and trying something new and allowing myself to get dirty when I don't like to get dirty, all of that was very helpful to me because it gave me an opportunity to channel some energies, to find a new way, to open up a perspective that I had not had before. Is that something that you would be willing to do? To open up to doing something, not so that you would love the product of it, but for the sheer enjoyment of doing it. Whatever it is, whatever calls to you from your heart is how to go about deciding what you're going to do. And it could simply be walk around in your house in a different way, dress up differently. It could be figuring out how to doodle in different ways, try different pencils and different mediums. It could be driving a new way home. It could be calling up a friend and saying, hey, you want to go play? Let's do something we've never done before. Let's do something that we would love to do that would bring us joy, but we've been a little bit afraid of doing it. These are the things that we're being called to, so that we can be the spirit, we can be the bird brooding over the water. Pam Grout has 3 questions for us. One is, how can I develop my passion, my intuition, and my vision? How can I do that? I invite you to actually say that out loud. How can I develop my passion, my intuition, and my vision? And so part of what I'm doing here with my hands is just opening my body up. This is a whole body learning. opening myself up, opening up ideas to try to move in a different way, to ask that question so I can open up different parts of my brain. The second question, how can I bring more magic into my life? And what better time than right now to bring more magic into our lives? How from my heart, how from my soul can I bring more magic into my life? And what did I want to do when I was 8 years old? Who did I want to be? What were the dreams of that 8-year-old within you? Have you forgotten them? Some of us might have to sort of step back a little. What did my 50-year-old want to do? What did my 35-year-old want to do? What did my 25-year-old want to do? What did my teenager want to do? What did my 8-year-old want to do? I might have to step back. I might have to engage my imagination. I might have to play more. But research has shown is when we're willing to play, when we're willing to engage, when we're willing to bring more joy into our lives, we're willing to bring more creativity into our lives. Pam Grout talks about spirituality. Usually, when we aspire to being more spiritual, we think of things like being kinder, being more understanding, saying more prayers. But she actually has a bit of what I consider to be a challenge for us. But in order to fulfill our destiny as spiritual beings, we must also become more creative. I'm going to say that again. In order to fulfill our destiny as spiritual beings, we must become more creative. Why is that? Because we are creators. We must feel like a creator to create. And there are beautiful and amazing and magical things to create in this life. We must open to the magic, the deep vistas that gush through our souls. Opening up to magic. One of the things that has shown to be a sign of intelligence is that kids allow their minds to wander. They take some time and they daydream. We know it quite often as a kid laying in the grass, looking up at the clouds. Oh, that's an elephant. That's a tiger. That's a bird. They're allowing their imaginations to roam. As adults, how often do you let yourself gaze out a window, stare at the ocean, look at a painting, and engage your wandering mind? So often as adults, we're told, oh, I have to get busy. I have things to do. I have responsibilities, just like Peter Banning had. And all of those responsibilities and all those things that he had to do that he considered to be serious adult things were tamping down his creativity. He was losing his imagination. I personally don't want to lose my imagination. I want to play in the realms of imagination, because what I know is that I am a creator. You are a creator, and we call upon that power of imagination to be in that creative process. We call upon faith, the unseen, to be in that creative process. And when we can get in that process, so what we're doing is so much fun, creates so much joy for us, that we lose track of time. When we can get there, it doesn't matter what we've created. We've been in the process. We've been in creation. And what it will change is what we are like inside. And as we have more joy inside, we're going to open up our eyes to see the world more differently. We're going to radiate more joy, and we're going to walk through life with greater joy. Berry Gordy, many of you know his name. Berry Gordy, in 1959, borrowed $800 from a family plan, and he bought a house on Grand Avenue in Detroit. It was a small house. He had a dream. His dream was to take that house and turn it into a recording studio, a record company. So he bought that house and he began to put equipment in it. And he began to record many, many people that you may know. Diana Ross, Smokey Robinson. He began to record those people. And do you know that between 1959 and 1972, when he sold the company, he produced 535 pop chart hits. And 60 of those were number one on the charts. 535. Something you may or may not know about Berry Gordy: he couldn't read music, and he could not play an instrument, but his dream was to write music. And if no one else would record his music, he was willing to invest his $800 into buying a house, creating a recording studio, and living his dream. And look what came out of it. We know it as Motown. The music is fabulous. And he allowed the dream to be bigger than the zone of judgment for himself or other people. He allowed his dream to come forth because he just enjoyed the sheer experience of creating. And that experience has delighted my ears and many ears for many, many, many years. Eventually, he sold Motown to MCA Records, $61 million. But that was not the point. That was the icing on the cake. The point was he was engaged in his own creativity. He was willing to take a risk for himself. He was willing to allow that dream that was filling his heart to come forth, to take a chance, to take a risk, and to have a lot of fun doing it, because the music is fabulous, in my opinion. What are you willing to take a risk for? What dream is held in your heart that you want to let out for the sheer joy of allowing it to come forth? Just for pleasure, having a good time and see what unfolds. We don't always know. And for those of you who are telling yourself that you're too old, Laura Ingalls Wilder, the author of the Little House on the Prairie series, she did not write the first book in that series until she was 64 years old. Do not allow age to limit you, whether it's young or whether it's older. What's the dream of your heart? What will it take to make magic in your life? And are you willing to live fully in that place of magic? Are you willing to open up your arms and say, I will do amazing things. I will do them because I have the capacity within me to do them. Not only do I have the capacity, I have the impulse to do them. And when I stop limiting my impulses, I continue to allow my joy to open up. When we shut down one feeling, we actually dim them all. So when we're allowing our creativity to flow forth from us, we're also allowing Spirit to move through us, to move as us, to float across the water like the bird did, bringing the abyss into focus, bringing the abyss, the darkness, into light. And then with light, creating something different, something that was not here before, for the sheer joy of doing it. I have some affirmations for us. I see myself as a creator, and I'm open to new experiences. We must see ourselves as creators, and we must be open to those new experiences. I'm willing to do more of what brings me joy. If all you did was a little bit more and a little bit more, eventually that 5% in the zone will be 20% in the zone. Have fun. Let it flow. And then I face my fears and I live courageously. That fear of not being good enough, that fear of what I create is not good enough. See the reflection if I'm carrying it? Am I willing to be courageous and step forth in creativity and do the amazing things that I was called to do? Bruce Kinney's going to come and lead us in meditation.
Breathing with focus and attention to our intention to open up to greater flow. Breathing in, I open up. I allow myself to fill with divine, radiant source love down through my crown, flowing in to all parts of my being. Breathing out, letting go, releasing, relaxing, opening up, bringing some attention to the knots and the tangles, and slowly and gently letting them go. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I release, I let go of all of the things that stand in the way of me being fully present with my beingness, with my being in the flow, with my being open to all things that are possible, opening up the lens of my perception wider and wider so that I can see all of the possibilities that are out there in every moment, letting go of those filters that I put on the shoulds and the ought-tos, letting go of anything that is standing in my way of being abundant and creative and full of joy and the juice of life. Breathing in, breathing out. I release, I let go, and I open up to being the creative being that I am. I take a few moments to be. Bring my attention back to my heart, to my opened being here in the world. I step forward into the world with a greater sense of presence and a greater feeling of flow. I say thank you. Taking a little bit of a moment now to transition to our time of expressing our gratitude. This is the time when we open up to the thought of sharing all of our generosity through our offering. And we say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
I've always been the kind of girl that hid my face, so afraid to tell the world what I want to say. But I have this dream right inside of me. I need to let it show. It's time to let you know, to let you know. This is real, this is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be now. Gonna let the light shine on me. I have found who I am. There's no way to hold it in. No more hiding who I'm meant to be. This is me. Do you know what it's like to feel so in the dark? To dream about a life where you're the shining star. Even though it seems like it's so far away, you have to believe in yourself. It's the only way. And this is real, this is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be now. Gonna let the light shine on me. Now I found who I am. There's no way to hold it in. No more hiding who I wanna be. This is me. You're the missing piece I need, the song inside of me. I gotta find you. I need to find you. You're the missing piece I need, the song inside of me. I gotta find you. I need to find you. This is real, this is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be now. Gonna let the light shine on me. Now I found who I am. There's no way to hold it in. No more hiding who I wanna be. This is me. This is me. This is me.
Exactly where we're supposed to be. Thank you, Samantha Mifsud. Thank you, Paul Miller, Justin, Lacy, Jon Hill. We are all so blessed. Unity has a publication called The Daily Word, where there's a thought, there's an idea that each of us holds on to in prayer with intention and with ultimate creativity every day. Today's daily word is smile. Smile, simple as that. I share joy and love of God when I smile, and so do you.
So we have things that bring us smiles and things that we think take the smiles off of our faces, and it feels very real to us. But we can hold those things in prayer and bring the smiles right back. We invite you to call the office. You can make a prayer request online at unitywill.com. You can send me an email, revnickiegolden@gmail.com. We answer those prayers. We hold your requests in prayer. We hold your celebrations in prayer. We place them in the prayer box for 30 days, and then they go to Silent Unity for 30 more days. 60 days of soaking, resting in prayer.
A great way to hover over the abyss in great anticipation. We want to remind you of three very important things before our time ends in this moment. First of all, you are a beloved expression of God.
You are here for a holy purpose.
And you are where you are are, by divine appointment, you are in the right place at the right time, right now.
I invite you to make a commitment this week to finding the magic in your life again, to open up your imagination, to try some new things, to have fun while doing it, and do not even begin to think about the end product. Just enjoy being in the flow, being in the zone, having fun, and watch what happens.